Hello and welcome to this new webinar series from EE, coming to you from Wembley Stadium. Really pleased that you can join us for this discussion all about mobile security in the public sector. Now, we all know that smartphones and tablets aren't just a big part of our personal lives today. They play a critical part in our working lives as well. That applies, of course, to the UK public sector, which for a while now has pursued a digital by default policy. And digital increasingly means mobile. But with most endpoint security breaches occurring on mobile devices by 2017, according to Gartner, what risks are there? And then with the government now even providing guidance on bring your own device, what does the future of mobile security in the public sector look like? To help answer some of these tricky questions, I'm very lucky to have with me 4 experts in their field. Chetan Shah, who is EE's Head of Government and Public Sector, Raj Mullampati, who is Vice President of Marketing at MobileIron, Phil Lander is B2B Director for Samsung UK and Ireland, and finally, John Cusack, EE's Area Business Manager. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Chetan, I'd like to start with you. I think we will talk in time about technology and people and processes, but let's just set the scene in the context of the public sector. In what ways is the public sector different?
Well, in some respects, they're very similar to the private sector. If you think about the challenges in terms of productivity gains, doing more with less. Where perhaps public sector is in a different position is the extreme nature of some of the cost cutting that's going on at the moment. And these are organisations that aren't necessarily trying to make a profit. They're trying to provide services to the local community, to the wider community, whether it's health, police forces, etc. So that the kind of things that they're trying to provide are under threat because of the nature of budget cuts that are taking place. And that has a huge impact on how they address technology and how they utilise that technology to address some of those issues.
So is the adoption to mobile slower because of those reasons?
Well, I think the reason the adoption to technology is probably slower for a couple of reasons. One is that I think the private sector embraced mobility far sooner and perhaps saw the opportunities that much quicker. Public sector are certainly waking up to mobility as part of their digital strategy and becoming more mobilised. And I think in part it's only when the need arises that suddenly that you do something about it. And clearly public sector is starting to awaken. The giant is starting to awaken and open themselves up to what mobility can do for them.
And when we think about mobile security, to what extent, if at all any, is the public sector more of a target than the private sector? I'm thinking statistics from Symantec and VeriSign suggest that in the last 3 months of 2014, for example, distributed denial of service attacks against the public sector rose more quickly than against any other sector in the UK economy. Is there something we should draw out of that?
Well, I think governments around the world are always going to be some sort of target. Rather than worry specifically that government are under any more target than, say, a banking organisation, I think the important thing here is to ensure that it doesn't prevent you from having mobility as an integral part of your overall strategy.
Raj, let's talk about mobile security and let's set it in the context of the technology from a MobileIron point of view.
Sure. Before I get into the technology, there are 3 key elements any of these mobile security solutions have. Right? So the first one is certainly the network. The second element is the hardware, and the third element is the software. Let me just talk about the software element before, and then I can have the colleagues talk about the hardware and the network. The 3 key elements on the software side. Number one is to make sure that the IT within the organization can set the policies, right? So fundamentally, it's all about setting the right policies depending on the different groups of folks. The second key element is to make sure there is a mechanism by which you can enforce these policies set on the mobile devices itself, right? So that's the second key element of the software solution. And the third key element is what I call access control. So it's about securing the data that's in motion especially when you're connected back to some resources or some databases that are in the public sector behind the firewall, right? So fundamentally, those are the three key elements of the software solution. And interestingly enough, if you look at the overall solution, the EE Samsung MobileIron solution, it's actually CESG compliant too.
Tell me what that means.
So what it means is that there are some security policies that have been set that have been set for the public sector organizations, and the joint solution adheres to those security policies that have been set up.
Raj, thanks for the moment. So Phil, Raj set the scene in terms of the hardware, the software and the network. As a hardware manufacturer, as a device manufacturer at Samsung, what role do you play?
So we play a key role as part of that security chain. The mobile device is the interface into all these services, and it's with the mobile users all of the time. So it's of critical value with the information that it has on it. So we've addressed security by in two key ways. Firstly, through the introduction of Samsung Knox, designed to make Samsung Android the most secure platform for enterprises and public sector, and we've achieved that. And as Raj mentions, it's approved for use in the government. Secondly, through working with the ecosystem partners such as MobileIron to provide that end-to-end solution that gives the customer and the enterprise freedom of choice, gives them security and enables them to allow these new ways of working to be embedded in their workforce.
Perhaps you can give me some examples of how that works in reality.
So I think in the public sector we're seeing some real innovation, and the pressure to mobilise their business is very similar to the private sector. But actually, when you start to look at what is the key data they need to protect in the public sector, it is actually that data. It's very, very sensitive. So a couple of examples, police force, if you're mobilising data, access into databases, case notes, that's critical data. Healthcare, mental health care patients records being available on a device, very, very sensitive and potentially very risky to a business if that was to get into the wrong hands. So we take that, wrap it in a secure layer, but actually the result of that security gives the benefit of this increased productivity and serve the community better.
John, so we're getting a picture here of protection from, but also opportunity to do things.
Sure.
Mobile device management, what role from an EE point of view does that play?
So from an EE perspective, I mean, absolutely security is critical for public sector and compliance and regulation, etc. It's critical that this sector suitably protects themselves. But interestingly, there's a lot of talk of efficiency and productivity gains, etc. And what is often forgotten that such platforms, the MDM platform from MobileIron, will allow the end user, will allow certain departments within public sector to do things a lot more efficiently, a lot more productively. Such as deployment of new devices, such as tracking of assets, particularly such as wiping or disabling a device that historically may have gone to a third party or may have gone back to a central department within government, but with the introduction of MDM, that brings the empowerment back to the particular department or the particular user. So there are lots of gains to be made outside of just security.
John, earlier on today, we asked you to actually, rather than just talk about this technology, to demo it for us. So let's take a look at that now.
So John, please tell us about the super secure product.
Okay, so this is the super secure product provided by EE. It incorporates 4G. It incorporates mobile device manager, in this instance provided by MobileIron, and as an option, if so desired with the devices, Samsung Knox. The great thing about this is that we provide this as standard with all of our 4G packages. So anybody taking out a 4G package from EE has access to what I'm about to show you, which it gives, as well as security, which obviously is important, it gives administrators and it gives businesses control over the ledger and over their devices.
So how about a quick example? What for example, would someone do if someone in their organisation misplaced a smartphone?
Okay, so if we simply log in, standard username and password, you will then see you are presented with a dashboard. That dashboard is a breakdown of your estate, of your ledger of devices by handset type, etc. But if we were to find a particular user, so straight across the top here, we can see we have a users tab. If we click, it will then give you a breakdown of all of the mobile users within your base, within your organisation.
Okay.
Clearly, there's quite a lot of detail provided here, but we've blanked some of it out for data protection reasons. But if I were to find myself, so I click on myself here, I'm just towards the bottom here, John Cusack. That then presents me with a screen that highlights the devices that I personally have registered to the Super Secure platform, because clearly mobile users sometimes have multiple devices. They may have a phone,
Sure.
they may have a tablet, etc. If I were then to click on my device, it will give me a couple of options, but one of those options is to actually lock the device. So once I click on lock,
Okay.
very interestingly, what it provides me with is more options than just locking the device. So for instance, if I wanted to enter a contact phone number that might be my own telephone number, and I wanted to enter a message such as lost device, because we're not necessarily presuming this has been stolen, it's just been misplaced. Lost device, if found, contact this number for a reward.
Brilliant.
And instantly that will lock the device, but also present the message that I've asked to be displayed on screen. So not only are you protecting yourself as a business from data falling into the wrong hands, you're also giving the option, if somebody has found that device, the option actually to return it rather than it being disposed of.
Okay, wonderful stuff.
So that was the Super Secure product in action. Chetan, before we move on to other parts of this discussion, a couple more things on technology. You talked about the network. What role does that play?
So the network is a critical element. If you think about, you've got the hardware, you've got the software, the glue that pulls all this stuff together is the network. And the network from 2 points of view, we've been talking about security, which is vital for. If you don't have security built into your network, there's opportunity for leakage there. But the other part of network is the enabler that gives the right experience to the end user community. A poor network experience, a slow network, a network that doesn't have the right backhaul will lead to a poor experience. And we know that when end users get a poor experience on mobile devices, inevitably they stop using them. They don't use them properly, or they put them down and they go back to their old ways of working. So the network is a vital component to ensuring that the projects, the field-based teams, etc., when they roll out mobility solutions, that network is considered very carefully.
So Phil, the network is a vital component. The apps presumably are a vital component, but potentially an area where there could be problems.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think we're seeing an increasing consumerisation and a need to use new services in the public sector as well as in the enterprise marketplace. And, that can encourage malware attacks. It's increased around about 20% per annum over the last few years. So that needs to be protected. But that shouldn't be a fear factor for customers not wanting to actually move forward and embrace these technologies that allow them to serve their community better or engage their staff and collaborate better.
They shouldn't be put off by these statistics. I'm going to throw another statistic at you, and you're going to tell me it shouldn't scare them as well. So that's 75%, that's 3/4 of mobile security breaches will be the result of mobile application misconfiguration. That's the number according to Gartner. But you're telling me that actually it's an issue, but they shouldn't be too concerned.
No, they shouldn't be concerned on the basis if they take the right steps to manage it. Through the solutions that we've talked about today and having that end-to-end approach, it actually allows the customer to deploy, control and manage those applications, protect their data, protect their users from attack. Without that, customers run a big risk in just being in the open marketplace.
Raj, so Phil talked about sort of deploying and managing and controlling. How do we balance that with user behavior and indeed user demand?
Yeah, so one of the key things about mobile security is to have proactive security and not reactive security, right? And again, that's a fundamental shift between PC security versus mobile security, right? And one of the key things that our joint solution does is makes sure that you can secure those key applications, right? So the applications that are being used by the end users, by the caseworkers, within the government itself or within the public sector itself, right? While maintaining the end user privacy, right? So if an end user is using the same device for both personal and for the business usage. The key element is securing the applications, the business applications, while maintaining the end user privacy. So effectively, so that they can go back and still use Facebook, still use other applications that are being used for personal purposes, right? So the key element again here is to have a mobile security solution or enterprise mobility management solution which balances both those things. And that's just fundamentally what the overall joint solution provides.
John, would you accept that notion, this idea of a balance? Because some organisations in the public sector, the thought of Facebook being within their organisation or some other things, Dropbox, for example, may fill them with horror.
I think in today's society it's something that we need to embrace. It's part of our daily lives and ultimately we have to accept it. And very often if you were to restrict some of these apps that historically have been consumerized, Facebook as an example, Facebook has a huge presence in corporate, private, public sector world these days. So I think it's about embracing what people need rather than necessarily putting policies to block things out.
And Chetan, talking of policies, are there particular compliance issues that apply to the public sector? We talked at the beginning of lots of similarities, but is this one area perhaps where there is a difference?
Well, security, as we said right at the beginning, security is a critical element of what happens in the public sector. We need to make sure that the data, and it doesn't matter whether you're a police force, a health organisation, a local council, that data needs to be secure. And as you'll see, the common theme here is that it shouldn't prevent people from having a mobility strategy. Productivity gains, efficiency gains, happiness of employees, much of the things that we see in the private sector can only happen if we allow those end users to have access, to have the right technology and the right software, the right network available so they can do the stuff they need to do in a more efficient manner, productive manner. At the same time, protecting themselves against this leakage of information, etc.
Can you give me some examples, perhaps, in the public sector?
Again, it's not necessarily restricted to public sector, but health organisations, patient records, in the police environment, there are records of people information, etc. That's important information that needs to stay contained to the people that are supposed to have access to that information. But that information is very well utilised if it's available in the field to the police officer who's making a call to an incident, rather than having restrictions placed on them so that they can only get access to that information in the station, which is traditionally the secure environment. It's possible to have a very secure environment with a mobile device whilst out in the field and therefore make these people more productive. And actually, they probably do their job a lot better as a result. And we've got some great case examples of where we've done this with police forces, mobilised their police forces, and as a result, their productivity's gone up and the experience is a lot better as well.
Phil, tell me about Cumbria Police. I believe they're taking the product and using it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've deployed Note 4 technology with the super secure solution from EE. And what the goal of their change in adopting that was actually to have their police officers spending more time out serving their community. So the technological solution to that is to provide a large screen device that allows them to capture case notes, interrogate databases, etc., and instantly communicate that. So they spend more time out on the streets serving the community than back in the office writing up case notes. So it's a really, really powerful and innovative solution as how technology has actually helped hit that government objective of achieving more with less.
John, lots of good examples here, lots of practical examples of being used. Underpinning this is a policy required? Is there a policy issue that we have here that we need to set out some ground rules? I'm looking at one more statistic for you from Forrester and Samsung. 55% of respondents say their organisation doesn't have a policy for use of mobile apps at work. Is that a problem? Is that 55% figure a problem?
I think there are policies that are needed in place in public sector, depending on the information, as the example's just been given, that is free-flowing back and forth. Because, of course, you've got to protect everybody for the information that's being shared. But with regard to, as always been discussed, with regard to the policies on specific apps and specific data, as long as you are protecting yourself with the necessary software, with the necessary policies around what's being downloaded, then I think you're fine.
Raj?
Yeah, I mean, so again, there's no one size fits all for the different organizations, right? So there's sort of a spectrum of different policies that need to be in place for public sector organizations, and that's again a critical element in terms of the overall solution itself, right? So it should fit the needs of this diverse needs for a single organization itself, right? So different business units, so to speak, or different organizations need these different elements, right? So again, so the key element here is to make sure you can secure the data wherever it flows, right? This includes the devices, while making sure that the end users get the freedom of choice, get the freedom and the flexibility to actually be more productive using the mobile devices.
Raj, thank you very much. Some advice I can see creeping out of that answer, which is really interesting, because that's where I want to finish this discussion today. From all of you, really, please, some advice to those watching, those people within the public sector. They won't necessarily be within the technology department. Most of them won't be in that department. So starting with John, what piece of advice would you leave them with?
I would say embrace the technology. Don't be fearful of it, and absolutely put the necessary protection in the security policies to protect your organisation, but embrace it as far as the positive productivity gains that it can bring your department as well.
Embrace it. Phil?
I would echo that as well. I think, embrace it, do not fear it. There are risks associated with it, but if you work with the right partners and trusted partners, those become actually an advantage. You can turn that in your favour. So there's many great examples. The pressure to move to a mobile workforce is increasing all the time, and actually working with the right people, the right trusted partners will deliver great solutions.
Raj?
Yeah, and then the key thing that I sort of wanted to highlight is that there isn't a single set of policies that need to be sort of consistent across the different organizations. So make sure that you choose a solution that fits the needs of the individual organizations. That's, again, very critical. And secondly, it's actually sort of very critical to make sure that you have the right security policies while giving the end users the ability to use mobility as a differentiator and as a productivity gain.
And Chetan?
I echo my colleagues' comments. The one thing I would like public sector to be doing is recognizing that mobility is not a luxury. This is a necessity. If we're going to be successful in the mobilization of people, the productivity, the efficiency gains, all the things that we've spoken about today, this is a discussion at a very senior level. It's part of a digital strategy that all government organizations should be having. And therefore it should be integrated into the workforce. It shouldn't be something that's feared. It should be something that's embraced, as the language that's been used today. And let's see some of those benefits. Let's enjoy those benefits.
Thank you very much. I think the word embrace is the one that I will take away from this discussion. Chetan, thank you. Raj, Phil, and John, thank you all very much. And thank you very much for watching. We'd love to continue this conversation going beyond today to find out more about working with EE, working with Samsung and MobileIron, or to dig a little deeper into some of the issues, some of the points that we've been making today, then please do get in touch using the contact details that should be on your screen now. Until next time, thanks again for watching.